morning. Today I am going to do my Devotional Classics number 5 for you. Reading through all of them, just a brief excerpt. I'm finding that no matter how long ago something was written or how current, each one of these devotions has spoken something to my heart. And out of this week's readings, there's a couple of really good ones. But the one that really touched my heart the most, which was surprising for me, was one on rules. And that is Jeremy Taylor, who lived from 1613 to 1667. And this will be on the grace of humility. Normally I try to write a paper out so it flows seamlessly like a paper rather than answering a series of questions. This week may be a little bit more difficult to do that as I'm doing it live in front of a camera, and yet I'll still try to make this cohesive. So here we go. To start with, I was thinking about what humility was. The question I have to ask is, do I have humility? What is humility? If I say I have humility, am I expressing humility? One of the things that I was thinking about truly is humility for me is not putting myself first in all situations. And while this sometimes can be very hard for our modern world, it is something that I had to truly stop and think about. And there are times that God has granted me a grace of humility. And there are times that I am absolutely not expressing humility. That's why I kind of like the rules of Jeremy Taylor here. I felt that they spoke to me very strongly, and these are ones that I'll probably actually use in a small group setting, as I feel that they are rules that we can all utilize in our own lives. Humility, writes Jeremy Taylor, begins with a realistic assessment of ourselves, namely that we are unworthy. But how does this relate to us in our modern world? I think, for the most part, we've all gone so far past humility into what's best for ourselves, what we can accomplish, what we can do, how we can step forth and be the prominent one. It's expressed in our employment. It's expressed even in our churches. We try to take leadership roles, not necessarily for the serving aspect of it, but to be seen as a leader. So it's a double-edged sword sometimes. So that's one of the things that we truly need to watch for, especially for those of us that serve within a church. Now that kind of leads us right into what he had said, what Jeremy Taylor says. He says, some people spend their time dreaming of greatness. Although there is nothing directly evil in this, it is the offspring of an inner evil. This truly can hinder our spiritual life. Sometimes we get so involved in, shall we say, the praise of the job, the what are others thinking of me of the job, the greatness of the job, that we start thinking, wow, if I'm in that position, I truly am responsible for 50 people under me. Their spiritual lives truly depend on what I'm going to say to them. And we truly lose track of the fact that it's not me at all. It's Jesus Christ. He is the one who has given me a gift. He has given me hopefully some knowledge to impart. But it's not mine. It is Jesus's. I am not responsible for those 50 people. I am just a tool in the hand of our Creator. I am a chisel that He is pounding on relentlessly to work His beauty into others. And in the process, I may get marred, I may get scuffed. And that's okay, because Jesus Christ is using me. And who am I to argue with that? In fact, I feel blessed, I feel absolutely exuberant that I can be utilized that way. Another thing that we have to think about, especially with our humility, is sometimes our past, who our parents are, how we were raised, where we were raised, in current situations where we work, where we have worked, where we are planning on working, all those can set us up for oh, feeling ashamed. And these are very valid points, but we need to not be ashamed. Um, I personally grew up only child, single parent. My mother had me out of wedlock, and in fact, from what I had actually found, it was a semi-scary situation for her because my father apparently had a really bad temper. And she had left one time after a really bad storm in their relationship, and if he would have sent for her, she would have come back, she had told me. And yet he never did. So I actually grew up without knowing my father. And I knew as a kid especially, I resented him. I resented him so much for not being involved in my life. I never knew him. And yet as I was growing, I realized that there's grace and beauty in what happened to me, because I got to know a very loving mom in a very nurturing environment, and I didn't have to worry about that temper, that anger, that pain that could have been caused to us as a family. So as an adult, hindsight is 2020. I'm not ashamed of my past. In fact, sometimes when I can express that, that is, as we say in our church, God does not waste a hurt. That is a tool that can be used to reach other people. Once again, a tool in the hands of Jesus Christ. How awesome is that? Well, Taylor gives us a list of quite a few rules. In this chapter, there's 19 rules that were listed. And one of the questions asks us which one comes the easiest for us and which ones comes the hardest. I want to read for you rule number 5, which I will say probably comes some of the easiest to me, and it's funny because it actually touches on something I just talked about. 5th rule, never be ashamed of your birth, of your parents, your occupation, or your present employment, or the lowly status of any of them. When there is an occasion to speak about them to others, do not be shy, but speak frankly, with an indifference to how others will regard you. It is said of Primisalis, that the first king of Bohemia, that he kept his old work shoes by his side so that he'd always remember his humble upbringing. Excuse the stumbling there. I've actually learned this even with my job. I've learned that while it's not where I truly feel I am meant to be, hence going back to school to further my work within the kingdom of Christ, I don't sit there and complain about it. I actually enjoy the work I do. I try to work to the best of my ability. I speak to others. And I think I've talked about this in the past. The thing that always seems to get me through the tougher times is when I start thinking about Joseph. His life, Joseph in the Technicolor coat, his life just, to me, speaks miracles, speaks volumes. Sorry, it'd be Jacob. Early morning still. But the fact that he was able to live a life of slavery and still give all his glory to God and work the hardest he could, it gives me hope. It gives me encouragement not to give up, not to disparage where I'm working. I can give fully to the kingdom of God where I'm at, and not just because of where I plan on going. So that's one of the rules that I've come over the years to truly believe is fairly easy for me. However, some of the ones that are a little bit harder are listed under the devil's whispers and the desire to disparage. Rule 11, when you are slighted by someone or feel undervalued, do not harbor any secret anger, supposing that you actually deserved praise and that they overlooked your value, or that they neglected to praise you because of their own envy. Do not try to seek out a group of flatterers who will take your side and whose vain noises and empty praises you may try to keep up your high opinion of yourself. I think it's that last line that's the hardest for me. It's like I do have a higher opinion of myself than I probably ultimately should. And I know parts of that is because I've come from a management background and I'm not in management now. So at times I feel that I am being undervalued. But I realize that it's mostly in my head. I'm undervaluing myself in the role that I am. So That's where that rule gets a little harder for me. That's where I have trouble, because I need to not be my own worst enemy at that point. I need to not disparage myself for where I am at. The other one that I was thinking about was actually rule number 13. It says, take an active part in the praising of others, entertaining their good with delight. In no way should you give in to the desire to disparage them or lessen their praise or make any objection. You should never think that hearing the good report of another in any way lessens your worth. And I think we can see exactly how that ties right into the rule number 11 there. Again, it's that whole, I'm disparaging. If I hear others being praised, I think, okay, does that mean that I'm less? No, I'm not. Once again, I'm just like that tool of God. You know, if he can use me to get somebody else better, or if he shows the beauty in somebody else that I don't see within myself, hey, I should be proud. I should be very happy that that's going on. I should, encourage them and call it great. I mean, that's awesome that that would happen, that that person could be lifted up. I don't need to be lifted up to feel that grace, that encouragement, that beauty that they are experiencing, because God has shown their beauty, their grace, their worth. But I have that same worth. I am loved by Jesus Christ. So those are some of the rules that have really struck out to me and stuck out to me. And they're ones that I will take to heart. I will reread these rules because I think that they mean quite a bit to us. Then we also read here at the end an excerpt from Luke chapter 14, verses 7 through 11. It talks about a parable where Jesus is at the table and he sees how people are arranging themselves within seats of honor to less honorable, so to say. And Jesus basically has told them, why put yourself forth in the most honored spot? How much greater is it to actually take the lowest seat, the most humblest seat, so when somebody comes in and they see you there, they be like, no, you are worth more than that. Come, sit up here by me. Your worth is raised. And this is where we kind of can feel special about ourselves too, because others have seen our worth. Not just ourselves, but others as well. And truly we live in a world where we want others to see our worth as well. So I think what Jesus is saying there is, we don't want to take that seat, though, expecting the host to come in and say, come, sit by me, you are so much greater. When we have that expectation, we truly deserve to stay down there. We truly deserve to sit in a lowly seat, because maybe then we will learn a little bit about humility. So, I come back to the question, what is humility? Humility, to me, is being that tool in the hand of Christ. Not putting myself as the adornment on the wall, not being the final crafted piece that Jesus has been working on, but to be the tool that Jesus Christ can readily grab, fits comfortably in his palm, and will be used to shape many beautiful works of art that he already has envisioned. God bless.